It's been 12 long years since my world got flipped upside down in the worst way. Looking back, I can see just how much my tone, attitude, and whole outlook have shifted since then. I remember a time when my wife and I had what felt like a near-perfect marriage. We met in college, fell hard for each other, and got married not long after graduation. I was the classic jock, football, baseball, the works. She was drop-dead gorgeous and incredibly smart. We did everything together, hung out with friends, picked up hobbies, faced every challenge side by side. Life wasn't always easy, but we supported each other through it all: family losses, health scares, even her battle with cancer and my heart issues. We were partners in every sense. Our love only grew stronger. As our careers took off, we moved into better homes, always staying in the same school district for the kids, and even splurged on a lake house. We made a ton of memories there with our son and daughter. We stayed focused on the future, saving up for college, staying out of debt, making sure everything was set. Life was busy, but we never lost sight of each other. Vacations, camping trips, date nights, bowling with friends, we kept our connection alive through the chaos. We made a point to invest in our relationship, and it paid off in the kind of joy you can't fake. Sure, no marriage is without bumps, and we had our share of arguments. But we always talked things through with respect, never yelling, never cruel. We were a team, and that team brought us a kind of happiness I thought would last forever. Our son and daughter, just 2 years apart, were the light of our lives. Watching them grow up, start their own families, it only made us feel more complete. My son was a natural athlete, just like me, and with the help of his coaches and me, he landed a baseball scholarship. My daughter? She had a voice like an angel, a cheerleader with a mature, graceful spirit that made us proud every single day. She and I had an especially close bond. She was always my little girl. But when she hit her teenage years, something shifted. She pulled away from me, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't seem to reach her. That was a tough stretch. Still, I knew deep down she loved me. And sure enough, that hard season eventually passed, and we found our way back to each other. When she started wrapping up high school, the pride I felt was overwhelming. For years, our marriage felt like a real-life fairy tale. I tried everything to keep the flame alive: sweet gestures, new adventures, even hitting the gym harder to stay in shape, hoping maybe that would catch her eye again. But it felt like chasing smoke. The more I tried, the more distant she seemed. Something felt off. I couldn't shake this growing sense of dread. Then one day, she told me she wanted a divorce. It hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Where had things gone so wrong? The shock was unbearable, not just for me, but for our kids too. I could hear it in my own voice back then, every word soaked with confusion and fear. Losing someone who was such a huge part of my life was a kind of pain I wouldn't wish on anyone. The fear of not knowing what was coming, of what was happening to my marriage, it was like a storm I couldn't find my way out of. One night I sat her down and just asked, "Is everything okay?" At first she brushed it off, said she was just tired from work and nothing was wrong. But I knew her better than that. I kept pushing gently until finally, she broke down and told me the truth. She felt disconnected. She wasn't sure if she was happy with me anymore. I was stunned. I had no idea she'd been feeling that way. I asked her what I could do, what needed to change. She didn't know. Just that, something had to. So over the next few weeks, I gave it everything I had. I tried to bring the spark back. Tried to remind her why we fell in love in the first place. I started planning little romantic dates, nothing over the top, just thoughtful gestures to show I still cared. I'd surprise her with small acts of kindness and really focused on listening whenever she talked. Slowly but surely, it seemed like she was starting to respond. We began laughing again, dreaming together, talking things through like we used to. We were a team again, at least, it felt that way. But deep down, I knew I had already tried everything I could think of. I poured every ounce of myself into saving our marriage. And even though we were sharing moments that looked like progress, nothing was truly fixing what was broken. There was this growing desperation in my voice every time I talked to her, this aching in my chest I just couldn't shake. I wanted so badly to believe we still had a shot, but I felt powerless. Like the end was coming, and I couldn't stop it. And the worst part? I couldn't even bring myself to ask her if she still loved me. That silence between us said more than words ever could. It was like staring across a canyon, too wide to cross. It didn't even occur to me that someone else might be involved, at least, not until I had coffee one afternoon with her best friend. Even then, I clung to denial like a life raft. I wasn't ready to believe there could be another man. My mind kept spinning, sleepless nights, no appetite, crying in the quiet moments. I was losing my grip, watching my world fall apart, completely helpless to stop it. I remember lying on the floor one night, just staring at the ceiling, my dog resting his head on my chest. There was something so painfully comforting about that moment, like he knew. Like he was telling me I wasn't alone. Even in that awful darkness, he gave me a little peace. A little warmth. I loved my wife so much. I would have done anything to save our marriage. That crushing sense of helplessness, of being completely out of control, only showed how deeply I cared. It all felt like a slow-motion tragedy I couldn't look away from. Telling this story now, I can actually feel a kind of empathy for myself. It's weird, but I'm proud of how hard I fought for something that meant everything to me. Losing her, losing what we had, was like living with a wound that never stopped stinging. Every day became a fight just to get up and face life without her by my side. It made everything we built, every bit of time, love, and work, feel like it had been for nothing. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't reach her. Couldn't get us back to what we once were. And divorce, man, I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't accept it, not completely. The idea of losing her entirely, even as just a friend, crushed me. I felt like I'd failed. Like I wasn't enough for her anymore. Like I couldn't give her what she needed. Still, through all of it, we stayed civil. We didn't tear each other apart, or add more pain to what was already unbearable. When it came time to divide everything up, the house, the stuff, all the little pieces of our life, it was gut-wrenching. We'd worked so hard to build something we could be proud of, and now we were carving it up like it didn't matter. Walking back into those homes, the ones we'd filled with memories, was unbearable without her. But nothing hurt more than the day we signed the divorce papers. I could see the tears in her eyes, same as mine. That moment felt like a true ending. Like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out a piece of my heart. Losing someone you've shared that much with, it leaves a scar. Time dulls it, sure. But it never really fades. In the midst of all that pain, I tried to hold on to the good memories. To the love we once had. It wasn't easy. But it gave me a little comfort. And then came the day my daughter got married. That bittersweet milestone no parent can avoid. There I was, surrounded by people I love, watching my little girl take her next step. Of course, it was a beautiful day, a celebration. But deep down, I felt a quiet sadness I couldn't shake. She was all grown up, starting her own life. And I was watching from the side, feeling every bit of the weight from my own broken one. Then something amazing happened. She came and sat next to me, rested her head on my shoulder. We talked, laughed, reminisced about the old days. Just us, sharing a drink by the fireplace. That moment, it hit me right in the heart. It was so real, so full of love. I'll never forget it. As we sipped our scotch and watched the flames dance, I felt something shift. Gratitude. I was thankful for her, her new husband, our family, and the love that still surrounded me. Even in the middle of healing from everything I'd lost, I could see that life wasn't over. Not by a long shot. That night, as the warmth of the fire and the closeness of my daughter wrapped around me, I felt something I hadn't felt in a while: peace. I knew I'd be okay. That whatever lay ahead, I'd face it with the people who still loved me. Toward the end of that night, our conversation turned more serious. That's when she brought up the divorce. Up until then, we hadn't really talked about it beyond logistics. Who was living where? when things were happening. But this time, we opened the door to the emotional stuff. And I finally asked her, now that you're older, now that you're a grown woman, what was it really like living with me? I knew I wasn't a perfect dad. Asking my daughter to be honest about what it was like growing up with me felt like a gamble, but I needed to hear it, especially after everything that had happened. To my surprise, she opened up. She said I could be intense sometimes, and that my expectations were high. She even admitted that she and her brother used to worry about letting me down. But then she smiled and said they always knew how much I loved them. That I'd do anything to protect them. That I'd always be there. She laughed a little as she told me they used to call me Sergeant Dad, behind my back. Not in a mean way, just with that kind of fond teasing kids reserve for the parent who runs a tight ship. I chuckled and told her I knew I wasn't always the most emotionally open guy, but they mattered to me more than anything. I may not have always said it the right way, but I loved them fiercely. Then she said something that stopped me cold. She told me she hoped her new husband would be as good a father and partner as I'd been, and that she wished I'd find someone who wouldn't cheat on me. That's when it hit me like a freight train. She knew. She knew about her mom's affair before the divorce, and she assumed I had known too. I just stared at her. Wait, you knew? She nodded and said she thought I must have known all along. That's why she figured I had ended the marriage. I asked her why she hadn't told me, and she said she didn't want to bring it up. She thought I was already aware and didn't want to make it harder than it already was. She said it had been a rough time for her. That she just focused on making sure I was okay. I pulled her into a tight hug and thanked her for standing by me, for being honest, for being my rock when I needed one most. She would always be my little girl, no matter how grown up she got. I asked when she thought it all started. She wasn't completely sure, but guessed it began maybe a month before my ex brought up the divorce. I asked if her brother knew too. She said he did. In fact, he was the one who dug through social media and found clues. He suspected there was another guy. I was blown away by how perceptive my kids were. And it all started to click. Why they'd been so distant with their mom, why they leaned so hard into supporting me during the split. I hugged my daughter again and held her like my life depended on it. She was the only thing that made any sense to me anymore. Her and her brother, my kids, were the only reasons I had to keep going. My ex's betrayal didn't just change how I saw her, it shattered how I saw myself, and everything around me. It was like a part of me died, and I had no idea how to rebuild. All I knew was I had to survive it. Somehow. Even if it was just one painful step at a time. The night her affair came to light was a turning point. Up to that moment, I tried my best to keep things civil, tried to handle the divorce with some dignity. But once the truth hit, everything changed. My mind was racing. I couldn't sleep. Looking back, all the signs were there. The extra time spent on her hair and nails. The nicer clothes. The more carefully applied makeup. I'd chalked it up to her trying to keep up with younger coworkers. But now I realized, it wasn't about work at all. It was about him. The man she'd chosen behind my back. The betrayal cut deeper than I thought possible. It wasn't just rejection. It was like she'd erased our life together without a second thought. My daughter ended up showing me the guy's Facebook profile. He was an executive at one of her mom's big accounts. His posts never mentioned her by name, but the way he wrote? It was obvious. He was obsessed with her. And even though my daughter said the guy wasn't as good-looking as me, seeing him at all was enough to send my stomach into knots. After that, I cut off all contact. No calls, no texts. I ignored her friends. Even her best friend, who never reached out once. That alone made me wonder if she'd known the whole time. One night I snapped. I drove over to my ex's house, fueled by anger, pain, and heartbreak. I broke in and started tearing the place apart. Smashed her things, dumped bleach on her clothes, ruined photos. I wanted her to hurt the way I had. I wanted her to feel just a fraction of the betrayal that had hollowed me out. And then, out of nowhere, she walked in. I thought she'd lose it. call the cops, scream. But she didn't. She just stood there, looking at me with this mix of sadness and pity. And then, the last thing I expected, she asked for my forgiveness. She admitted it. She had cheated. And she was too ashamed to tell me the truth back when we were divorcing. All the anger inside me drained away. I didn't know what to do with what she said. I realized she was broken too. And all I had done with my rampage was make the damage worse. A week later, our daughter got married. Both of us were there, putting on brave faces. I was still hurting. Still furious. But I pushed it all down to focus on her day. I'd lost over 20 pounds by then. The stress, the sleepless nights, the workouts, it all added up. I looked like a different person. And inside? I felt like one too. I felt good that day, walking my daughter down the aisle in a sharp-tailored tux. She looked radiant, and for that moment, everything else faded. During the ceremony, my ex looked stunning too. She wore all the things she knew I used to love on her. But I didn't say a word to her. I was still too angry, too raw from her betrayal. When she reached for my hand during the vows, I pulled away. I made sure our shoulders and thighs didn't touch during the photos. I didn't engage with her at all, just focused on making my daughter laugh, cracking jokes with friends and family, keeping my energy where it mattered most. At the reception, I was relieved to find out there was assigned seating. I ended up next to my daughter, with my ex a few chairs down. That must have stung for her. At that point, I don't think she realized I knew about the affair. I never brought it up, not even in my father of the bride speech. I gave a heartfelt toast, spoke about our daughter and the woman she'd become, but made no mention of her mother. It was like she'd had no part in raising her at all. Later, during the father-daughter dance, I could see my ex crying. But I avoided looking at her. I was supposed to dance with both sets of parents, but I skipped it. No way I was playing along with that charade. The rest of the evening, I spent with my daughter, my son, and my new son-in-law, completely sidestepping my ex. I never even saw her leave. I don't know how long she stayed, but every time I caught a glimpse of her, she looked heartbroken. Maybe she realized just how far apart we really were now. That day taught me a lot about myself. How I handled tough situations. It wasn't my proudest moment, but I did what I had to do to protect my peace. After almost 3 decades together, she chose someone else during a tough stretch in my life. That truth will always sting. But I've come a long way since then. As my therapist once said, I had to learn how to live alone again. To rebuild. And I did. I turned my house into a place that finally felt like mine. I added a 3rd garage bay for my Harley Softail, with a deuce seat, and my ATV. I'd always loved riding, but my ex never let me get a bike. Now I ride whenever I want. I upgraded the kitchen and the living room, added all the modern comforts. But the real highlight is the basement, a full man cave with a state-of-the-art sound system, a wet bar, a home gym, and a big screen set up for game days. Friends and family come by all the time. It feels like our own sports bar. I even made a special playroom for the grandkids, complete with a TV and a mountain of toys. Just last week, we had a blast carving pumpkins together. My ex would have loved that kind of thing. Funny how life works. Lately, I've been thinking about getting another dog. Not just for me, but for the grandkids too. Something about a dog makes a house feel like a home. I even installed a wood-burning furnace with a heat exchanger. Heats the whole place, mostly from timber I chopped myself. Keeps me warm and active through the winter. After all the pain, I've built something I truly love. A life that feels whole again. It took time, years, but I've created new memories, found new joys, and surrounded myself with people who care. It's been 12 years since she left me for someone else. And yeah, it was brutal at first. But my counselor was right. I learned to live alone. I found a new purpose. I turned my home into a dream space, added my Harley and my ATV, gave everything a facelift, and created a sanctuary I never had before. I found joy in being a granddad, in carving pumpkins, and watching football with friends. I even started dating again. At first, my friends' wives tried setting me up, but I wasn't ready. It took almost 2 years, and a little push from my kids, to agree to a double date. It was awkward at first, but now, I've got some incredible women in my life. Dating in your 50s and 60s isn't like when you're young. But it's not all bad. There are plenty of smart, beautiful women, my age and younger, looking for connection. Turns out, you don't need to be a rock star. Just be respectful, attentive, confident, and above all, fun. And I'm upfront about what I want. I'm not looking for a wife. Not interested in anything exclusive. I'm enjoying life on my terms now. These days, I'm careful and very selective about who I date. I steer clear of married women and one-night stands. I have to genuinely like the woman, enjoy being around her, having fun together, and feel like the interest goes both ways. Before getting too close, I take my time. We go to concerts, ball games, camping trips, backyard cookouts, dinner theaters, you name it. It took me a while to get comfortable with the idea of non-exclusivity, and to let go of feelings like jealousy or possessiveness. But I realized something important. I can't control anyone, and that's okay. That's part of the deal. Dating without the pressure of commitment has been refreshing, for me and for the women I spend time with. And if things naturally move towards something deeper, that's great. But I don't push, and I never manipulate anyone into intimacy. I've got a couple of longtime lady friends I've never been physical with, and that's totally fine. What matters is connection and respect. Truth is, I'm living a damn good life, and I'm grateful every day for the people and the experiences I've found along the way. I've been a private pilot for years, and flying my own small experimental plane brings me so much joy. My ex never shared that passion, but now I get to invite my lady friends on short trips and fly-ins. Sometimes we just hop on the Harley for what bikers call the $100 hamburger ride, a breakfast or lunch adventure. Each of these women has her own passions too, and I've done my best to share in them. I climbed Mount Baker after months of training. Got my open water scuba certification through PADI. Even went skydiving in tandem once. Surprisingly, I found myself enjoying the opera with one of them. But maybe the most unforgettable adventure? Crashing wedding parties in city parks. We'd mingle with the guests, enjoy the food, chip in with $100 on the money tree. It was bizarre and hilarious and unforgettable. Even though I spend a lot of time with these women, I'm usually just as content relaxing at home, sometimes alone, sometimes curled up with one of them, watching Netflix or listening to their favorite playlists. These women have pushed me outside my comfort zone, and I've done things I never would have considered on my own. I still struggle sometimes with the urge to want one of them to be mine exclusively, especially the wedding crasher. She's the whole package. But I've learned I can't let myself go there. That path doesn't lead anywhere healthy. Right before COVID, I went on a 7-day cruise with 3 incredible women. I'd only been close with one before the trip, but all 3 were fun, flirty, and full of life. We partied on the ship, danced every night, took wild day excursions. It was easily one of the best vacations of my life, maybe even better than some of the old family trips when the kids were little. On the last day, a cruise line rep pulled me aside and asked if I'd be interested in future trips at major discounts. Apparently, they needed more older single men to dance and hang out with all the single ladies and widows. It was flattering, though I couldn't help feeling a little like a gigolo. As for my ex, I've heard her relationship with that guy lasted about 3 years. I never asked for the details, never cared to know if they moved in together. It's not my business anymore. About 5 years ago, I started replying to her messages again, for the kids' sake. We mostly just exchange photos and updates about our kids and grandkids. Every now and then she wants to talk about the past, about the affair, the divorce, but I don't see the point. I never respond to those messages. That chapter's closed. We've run into each other at weddings and funerals. We say hi, keep it civil. The last time we really talked was at our newest grandson's christening. She looked good, older, like all of us, but still attractive. We spend over 2 hours just chatting about the grandkids and swapping happy memories. And yeah, there are moments when I feel the loss of what we had. It's impossible not to. But these are the golden years now. How long they'll last, I don't know. But they're here, and I'm doing everything I can to enjoy them. Recently, my ex and I agreed to be there for each other as we age. She's still the mother of my children and the grandmother of my grandkids. We were married for 28 years, that's not nothing. We even signed HIPAA releases and medical directive forms for one another, just in case. We'll never be a couple again. But we'll be civil. Maybe even supportive. My daughter recently told me that I seem happier, more relaxed than I ever did when I was married. And you know what? She's right. I retired last year, and I've gotta say, letting go of the daily grind and all the office politics has done wonders for my outlook on life. That freedom, that peace, it's been a real shift. These truly are the golden years, and I'm incredibly grateful to be experiencing them the way I am now. Still, there are moments where the past creeps in. A photo tucked in a drawer, a place we used to visit, a song on the radio, it'll bring it all rushing back. And yeah, sometimes I miss what we had. The life we built. The comfort of a long-term marriage. It's hard not to feel a little pang when those memories show up uninvited. Lately, though, things have taken an unexpected turn. My ex-wife has started inviting me over for dinner at her condo. Sometimes, she even floats the idea of us going out, like a real date. My daughter's mentioned it too, more than once, saying her mom brings it up. Funny thing is, my ex hasn't been in a relationship for years. That alone makes me wonder why all of a sudden there's this interest in my social life. I won't lie, it's a little strange. And yeah, I'm cautious. I don't know if there's some kind of team effort at play here, or if it's just a mother and daughter looking out for each other. But I trust my daughter. She'd never push me into anything that could hurt me again. That much I know for sure. So for now, I'm just taking things as they come. I'm happy where I am, whether I stay single or end up in another relationship down the line. I look back on my married life with a lot of appreciation, and now I've come to value the independence that being single brings. Whatever happens next, I know I'll be okay. Life moves forward, and I'm moving with it. And when old age eventually catches up to me, I won't be alone, not with the people I love around me. Reuniting with my ex? Maybe. Maybe not. But either way, I'm at peace.